So welcome everyone to our group demo where we're going to showcase how to deploy CPQ records using Salto in a flow that we feel is much easier than everything else out there. Today, we're gonna host you, both of us. I'm Sagi. I work for Salto as a product marketing manager, and I'm part of the team looking out for Salesforce side of our business. And we also have here Pablo, which you all, or most of you, I think, probably know, who is leading our Salesforce DevOps practice. Today's agenda is quite short. I'm going to give you a quick intro of Salto, just so you all know what we're up to. And we're going to introduce our approach to CPQ deployments. And then Pablo is going to walk you through the main features, the main capabilities that we think can make your CPQ deployments much easier, much faster. And we're also going to leave some time at the end for questions. So if you have anything specific you want to learn more of, feel free to leave a comment in the chat and we can try to address it.
Segi, also just to say that you can put questions as we go. So you don't need to wait till the end. Just if you see something on the screen and you have a doubt, just throw the question there. If I see it and if I can answer it on the spot, I will. We're making this short so that it's as valuable as possible and it's not a 27 slides thing. So I want it also to be interactive. So if you have questions, just let me know. And if you hear my daughter crying on the background, I'm sorry about that.
It's bedtime here in Europe.
No, it's not bedtime. She's just grumpy today. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Cool. So just a few quick words about Salto. So our bigger vision is to bring DevOps practices to the world of business applications configurations. So the same problems you're experiencing when you're managing CPQ changes, other professionals are experiencing when they try to manage changes in their Jira instance, in their Zendesk environment, in their Okta. So all are kind of suffering from the same problem that is kind of difficult to understand what's implemented. It's difficult to understand relationships. There are many difficulties in moving tested changes between environment. And it's also how to keep track of what's changing and to collaborate with team members. So these problems exist not only for Salesforce and Salesforce CPQ, but also for other applications. And that's what we're trying to solve. And the main use cases we support, but not only, but these are kind of the main ones, are first what we refer to as impact analysis, the ability to find things in your org and to understand how they connect with other elements, with other products, with other metadata elements, etc. Second use case is the ability to deploy, to compare any two orgs, to see the differences, and to cherry pick what you want to copy over between orgs. And we also integrate with Git and with any CI provider one may be using. So you can push all your changes to version control. You can collaborate with your team members via pull request. You can automate testing, validations, anything you can do with Git and with CI tools. You can use Salto to achieve the same goals. So these are kind of the main use cases we help support. And we're going to see some of them now in the context of CPQ. Pablo, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Sagi, for that. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So again, this is the final slide, I promise, and then we'll just jump into the product. Just a quick overview of how Salto does CPQ deployments. The first thing is that we treat Salesforce CPQ data as metadata. So what that means is if you think of normal Salesforce metadata, there's all these things like, version control, automated deployments, rollbacks, pull requests, all that. Most of this is not available for just configuration data like CPQ. And most other approaches are out there treat CPQ deployments as just another data migration. So Salto is not a data migration tool. Yes, you are migrating data from one environment to another, but the approach is completely different. And you'll see it in the demo. We're not just doing a typical data loader migration. We're elevating the status of CPQ configuration data to be the same as metadata. So everything that you can do with metadata, you can do it with CPQ data. So when to use this, again, if you want to treat CPQ data like metadata, which includes version control, automated deployments, approval processes, pull requests, etc. Also, we have functionality for the where is this used that is available for custom fields in Salesforce. It's also available for Salesforce CPQ. So if you want to see where a product is used across your entire CPQ configuration, product rules, options, and stuff like that, that's very easy to do with Salto. And as I said, all your typical DevOps kind of activities such as deployments, rollbacks, promotions to other environments, Git, the whole thing. Now, this is really for teams that are serious about managing CPQ implementations at scale. So if you just change CPQ data once a year, then probably this is not the right tool for you. But if you are making a lot of changes to your CPQ environment, those are complex changes. They need to be validated. They need to be tested. You may need to roll them back if they go wrong. Then 100% this is for you. So with that said, let's jump into the live demo. And this is where you can please start asking questions. I want you to interrupt me as much as you can so that it's not just me talking to this empty screen. So this is Salto. For those who haven't seen it, here I have all my environments. So these are just like my normal Salesforce orgs. And so here I have CPQ, UAT, and production. These are mapped to these two orgs that I have here. So in UAT, for example, I have a lot of products, and in production, I only have a few products. So the demo is going to be, how can I take this bundle, the laptop 15 inches, along with its features, options, and the optional products? How can I take all these in a few clicks and just put them in production with minimal effort? So I see a question there. Someone saying Salto is very useful. Yes, it is extremely useful. I would agree with that. So if I go here, I'm in production and I am on the compare and deploy tab. Here we have the deployment history. These are all the deployments that I've done through Salto. So I go here and I click compare and deploy. And I'm going to choose as my source, the CPQ UAT, and as the target production. So I'm going to call this my awesome demo. You can call it whatever you want. You can also add a description there if you wish. And then we click compare and deploy. So Salto's deployments are based on org comparisons. So what we're doing here is we're comparing all the metadata and CPQ data of the two orgs. We present the differences and then you can decide what to deploy. So one of the things that is really interesting is that we don't have a separate process for deploying CPQ data. It's not like it's a separate product or like a separate thing that you need to do. It's the exact same flow or experience as if you're deploying normal Salesforce metadata. So if I wanted to deploy, for example, some Apex classes, which I have here, and I want to deploy this class to production, this is how I would do it. In the exact same screen, I can deploy CPQ data. So I can go here and look at all the CPQ records that exist, and I can deploy them. Now, I want to spend a bit of time looking at these filters here because this is where things become very powerful. Let's say that I want to filter by type. So I don't want to see everything because it's just too much, right? I don't want to deploy the entire org to another org. So I just want to say, show me all the products, right? I just want to see the products that are different between these two orgs. And very quickly, without even clicking on it, I can already tell that there are 158 products that are somewhat different. So if I click on that, then I can see very quickly here all the products that are different. This plus means that there are additions, meaning that they exist in UAT, but they don't exist in production. I could add other types of filter here. For example, I can say, show me the products that are different. So these are products that exist in both orgs, but there's something different about them. There's a question there that does this work also for metadata deployments? It's also for metadata deployments, right? So right now I'm showing what CPQ data looks like, but I could also go here and say, well, actually, I also want to, deploy Apex classes, which is what I was saying earlier, right? So I can look at all the Apex classes that I have and I can deploy them. I can run tests. It is 100% a metadata and data deployment platform. So it's anything that you can deploy with SFDX or with any other tool, you can do it here, with the addition that you can deploy CPQ data in the exact same process. It's not a different UI or different tool for that. So anyway, these filters are very useful. I can also filter by additions, like, okay, I just want to see everything that would be created in production if I deploy. So things that exist in UAT but don't exist in production. I can also see modifications, which are things that exist in both environments but are different, and things that would be deleted if I deploy them. So let's go for the example, which was that 15 inches laptop and the whole bundle. So I can also search for that here, which is super useful. So I can just search for laptop. And here we have the laptop 15 inches, right? So when I click on it here, again, I can see that it's an addition. It will be created in production. I can see all the field values that will be deployed. And so when I select this, you see Salto immediately tells me everything that is related to this product. So I can see that it has one cost, it has 3 product features and 3 product options. And all of this happened automatically. I didn't have to tell Salto how to understand their relationships or which fields to take into account for which relationships. Like I know in other platforms, you have to build this kind of schema and the whole thing. This is all done automatically for you because Salto maps out all the relationships, all the dependencies that it just knows that, hey, if you're going to deploy this product, you may want to also include all these child records that are related to it. So in one click, I can select the entire bundle, right? Which is amazing. The other thing is that if you know CPQ, you know the product options are actually a junction object. So they're just like a junction between this product and another product. So here, I'm only selecting that junction object. I'm not selecting the other product. But of course, Salto is aware of that. So if I close this here, now Salto is telling me, hey, you have 5 missing dependencies. So Salto has identified that I have 5 products that I need to deploy, and they are required because they are required by those product options that I've selected. And so you can see this is all real time, right? Super quick, right? As I'm selecting records to deploy, Salto starts telling me what things are required, what things are related. So I don't need to go back and forth and try multiple deployments and trying to see what's related and what's not, and if I'm missing something. So if I go here now to selected, which shows everything that I've selected, I can expand everything and I can very quickly see everything that's going to be deployed. So this is really nice because I know some people when they're doing CPQ migrations, they have to keep like this change log of things that they've changed and things that they're going to deploy. And, Salto also replaces that completely. You don't need any of that if you can just select everything on the screen here. So assuming that that's what I want to deploy, I can just click here on preview deployment, and then we'll show you this very funny animation that I was discussing with Sagi that I think there's something a little bit strange about the legs. I'm not sure what. Maybe because we've never seen a beaver walking like that. But what's happening here is Salto is kind of doing a validation, not a source validation. It's a validation of our own understanding of this data, making sure that everything makes sense. And we're also opening a pull request on the Git repository of your choice. In this case, I'm using GitHub, but it could be, GitLab, Bitbucket, or anything else. Okay, so we have the deployment preview. Everything there is kind of like a final pass that you can take a look at. And if I go here, we see that there is a pull request. So if I click on this is just another, a simple pull request the way you would expect. And we go back to that concept of data as metadata, right? We can see everything that's going to be deployed. We can see what's changed. And what you're seeing here is how we represent CPQ configuration and any business application configuration for that matter. So we have our own language where we can tell that this is a Salesforce CPQ product feature with this ID, and these are the field values. So let's say, for example, if somebody looked at this, maybe like a senior developer, and they're like, "Hey, this doesn't look right. Why do we have only one for the maximum option count?" Then again, just like in any other peer review or code review process, they can go here and say, are we sure this is the right number, for example? So we go back. I'm not just pushing data. It's not just a data load. It's a data as a metadata process where we are elevating the status of CPQ data and treating it as if it was metadata. So you could have branch protection rules here. You could have any automation that you want that you could configure through GitHub Actions or Circle CI or something like that, and do whatever you want with these configuration files. Anyway, assuming that I'm happy with that, I can just go here, click deploy and push. Salto is going to tell me that I may want to deactivate CPQ triggers. That's not something that Salto can do because Salesforce does not expose that in the API. But at least we tell you that, hey, you may want to do this before you deploy. And then we just click deploy. And now we're just, doing the actual data load using the Salesforce APIs to deploy everything in the correct order. As I said, you don't need to tell Salto what the order is. Salto is going to automatically understand that, okay, the product needs to go first, then the other products for the product options. And so it's very smart. It already knows everything and the right order. So that's going to take a little bit. Just going to see if there are any questions here. Okay, no questions. There are two questions there. How does licensing work? Great question. I will answer that after the demo. And there's another question here. Sorry if it sounds dumb. What rollback options are there if I do something wrong? It's not a dumb question. It's a completely valid question. Anyway, let's see if the demo actually worked. So I get a recommend. I will answer that question in a moment. But I get a recommendation again that, hey, you may want to re-enable CPQ triggers. We see that the deployment was successful. So if I go here to my production org, which didn't have that 15 inches laptop, hopefully if I refresh this, now it's there. And we have the features and the options with all the optional products. So you can see how easy in just a few clicks I was able to, to deploy this. There's a question here. Can we create templates and we use them for CPQ sandbox sitting? Not really. So we don't have the concept of a template. You can, however, reuse the selection. So if I go back here to compare and deploy, and if I go here to one of these demos, one of these deployments that I did, like this one here, I can reuse the selection, which means, okay, take the same data or metadata, it could be both, as it exists right now, and then put it to another environment. But we don't really have the concept of a template that you can just like dump into a sandbox and apply. I think that makes sense, but that's more of a feature of a data loading tool, and we are not that. Okay, so about rollbacks, just now that I'm here, I can show that while I'm on the compare and deploy tab for production, I can see all the deployments that are pending. So these are deployments that I started, but I didn't finish. And these are deployments that I did finish, right? So here's my, the demo that I just did. Every deployment in Salto is like a Git commit. So even if you don't use Git, we automatically keep versions of every single deployment. So if I go back to this deployment, Salto remembers everything that happened. So it knows that this was an addition. It knows that this was, for example, a modification. So Salto remembers the before and after values of every single deployment that you make, regardless of whether that's data or metadata. And so in that way, they are kind of like Git commits automatically. This is out of the box. You don't have to use Git. This is on our platform. So that enables us to then revert or roll back the changes, because we just need to take the before and after and put them the other way around. So if I'm not happy with this deployment because these were not the correct products or something like that, I can just go back here and click revert, and like a Git, commit is going to create another deployment that is going to revert the previous deployment. So I can call this oops, right? And then what this is going to do is just take that snapshot, that kind of commit. Again, it's not really a commit, but that snapshot that Salto took of the before and after values, and is going to reverse them. And the same thing applies. You will have a pull request. Somebody can approve the changes. You can have protection rules. It's another deployment for all intents and purposes. It's just the selected elements are the same, and it's just that before and after values get swapped. There's a question there. Is there a learning path in Salto to understand these deployments? Yes, so we do have our learning platform. So I can answer that in a second. Just to finish this very quickly, you can see now the deployment is in previous stage and everything is now a deletion, right? Which is the opposite of what we did earlier. So hopefully that answers your question, Robert. We 100% have rollbacks or revert. In terms of learning, yes, if you go to our website, we have a learning center there, and we have a lot of articles on this. We also have some courses that we have made on Salesforce DX, Git, and CPQ deployments as well.
Yeah, this one lives on Salto Leap for Salesforce. There should be a few courses available there.
Yeah, I can just very quickly.
And I can share the link in the chat in a second.
Okay, but we do have here the Learning Center, right, Sagi? And so we can go here to Learn Center and go to Salesforce, and we have a lot of different articles, and we have some links to some of the courses that we've made. And there's actually this course that we made, Salesforce CPQ deployments from scratch. So yes, we do have that. And yeah, if we could put the link on the chat, that would be nice. There's a question here. So each record is stored in a NACO file in Git. Does this lead to large and slow repos? Well, no. If you first of all, you don't have. Okay, let me step back. First of all, yes, everything is stored in a NACO file, right? Salesforce does not natively have any format or any specific file extension for data. So we have our own. So it depends on how much you want to put on that repo, right? You don't need to use Salto for everything. You could just use Salto for CPQ, or you could also use Salto. We have customers that use Salto only for certain products, like maybe only the products where the product family equals something, X. So like any other repo, it'll grow as your metadata grows. So I think that's more of a Git question than a Salto thing. I'm not aware of any performance issues that would happen, but I would imagine if you have millions of records, then you may experience some performance issues, but that's a Git problem. This question, can we revert specific changes and not entire rollback? Yes, it's not the same flow, however, and I think we may improve this in the future, and you can consider this a safe harbor statement that we may or may not do this the way I'm describing right now. So what you've noticed here is that this revert, as you pointed out, Harish, is a complete revert. It's like just revert the entire thing. You may not want to do it, right? Maybe you just made a mistake on a few of those changes. For that, what we have, and I will admit that is a little bit hidden, it's not too intuitive right now, is if you go here to compare and deploy, we actually allow you to choose the same environment as the source and destination, which I know it's kind of a little bit weird. And my option is missing. I wonder, did we change? Oh, wait, actually, I think we changed this. Yeah, sorry, we changed this just recently. So there's an option here called restore to a previous version. This is where I wanted to go. So if you go here, what's going to happen is every time we make a deployment or every time Salto captures your configuration, we take a snapshot. So what's happening here is you have to choose a snapshot that you want to compare your current state, against that snapshot. So you can take the latest snapshot, which is the one I did, the one that Salto took after that deployment, right? So basically you're saying, okay, compare the version that we have now with whatever Salto took after that deployment. So this is a little bit it's kind of a new thing for the Salesforce ecosystem to think this way. You're comparing basically two snapshots, and as if they were org comparisons. So you'll be able to select exactly which changes you want to deploy, and deployment is in essence a rollback because you're rolling back to that previous state. So I haven't tested this for CPQ, to be honest, but this is basically the flow for that. Okay. So how does licensing work? Great question. So we actually, our pricing is public. So if you go here to pricing and you choose Salesforce, basically we price by the configuration size of your org. So the larger your org, the more is the license cost. So the rationale here is that you pay for the value that you get from Salto, right? So if you only use Salto for CPQ, you can configure Salto to only know about CPQ. You can say, I don't want to manage metadata with Salto. I just want to manage CPQ records. So then that's going to cost you something, right? That's going to be, in this case, like a 0.6 tokens per CPQ elements. That's a calculation that we do behind the scenes. So if you had, let's say, I don't know, 200 of these tokens, then you kind of end up in a plan of 200 tokens, and that has a price, as you can see here. So if later you decide that I do want to include Salesforce metadata, then again, that's going to start kind of increasing your kind of that configuration count. And as you grow, then this will keep increasing. So again, the rationale is you can pay as little as you want if you use Salto for a very limited use case. If you use Salto for everything, then of course that's going to be a higher price. But we don't charge per org or per user. So we literally just pay for the configuration size. And we also have a few additions, or like a few add-ons, I should say. So like if you want to add CI/CD, then that's an add-on. If you want to add stuff like SSO or Git on-prem, that's also an add-on. So that's how the licensing works. There's another question here. Does the data metadata will be in the same repository or NACL files using a different repo? It's entirely up to you. So I configured this to be, I guess somewhere I configured the Git settings here. So this could be a branch in an SFDX repo if you want it. So right now I only have like a repo with a single main branch that I'm using for this. But if you have an existing Git repo with SFDX, you could create a different branch and connect it here. And then we deploy to that branch. So you can have your normal SFDX branches and specific Salesforce CPQ branches. There's a question there about using Salto for CPQ deployments. How much would that cost? It's kind of
I
what I
think,
was.
Pablo, if I may jump in, I think the easiest way, if you really want to get the price estimation, will be to sign up for our trial and fetch your configuration. And once you do, Salto will calculate the size of your org and will give you the price right there within the product. So each org is gonna look differently. We do give discounts for annual plans, but the easiest way will be to just sign up, fetch your configuration into Salto, and you'll get the price estimation right there.
Yeah, so I may not be able to show that because I'm on like a test org, but if you connect Salto with your org and then you go here to settings. Oh, hey, my daughter just walked in. Sorry about that. And I go here to plan and usage, then I can see kind of the tokens that I have. Sorry about that. The amount of tokens that I have per metadata type, so we can see the whole breakdown here. And if this was a real account, then you would be able to see kind of the estimated price. So that's the best way. Yeah, just so we offer a 30-day trial. So you can just go to the website, salto.io, get a trial. When you connect, we'll ask you if you want to include CPQ. It's just one checkbox away. And then you can see here what's the estimate. So there's a question there. I'm starting from scratch and I have created a CPQ dev sandbox from production? Can I deploy a large amount of my CPQ data into a dev sandbox and single deployment so that I can use that for further development? Yes, of course. Like I only showed the, kind of the deployment of the bundle because I think it's kind of a good example to show the as metadata capabilities, right? That I was able to choose exactly what I wanted, that Salto understood the relationships, that I was able to create that pull request and leave comments, and to make the point that this is not a data migration tool. Now, of course, if that's what you want to do, if you create a sandbox and now you want to seed that sandbox, 100% you could do that. So I'm not going to do it live because I'm sure that something will happen and it'll go wrong. But um, the way it would work is you would just go here, create a new deployment. In this case, I call it seeding. And for CPQ, you just basically select everything. And that's it. You're saying, I'm going to take everything. I'm going to take everything that's in UAT and I'm going to put it in production. Now, there are some dependencies that are missing here, so you can also select them here as well. I don't know what these dependencies are, probably to these other products, or products are not part of CPQ. So you can also select the products here as well. And it seems like I'm using this on another object. So yes, you could then take basically everything that exists in one org. And so here we have it, right? Here I have all the records of CPQ, every single cost, every single product, all my metadata. And I can then, create a preview and deploy that to some other org. And so, yes, we have customers that use this specifically for the purposes of sandbox seeding. One thing that I didn't mention, just because it's kind of an advanced topic, is that if you do a seeding, so if you take CPQ data from production to sandbox, Salto remembers that relationship. So it's not just like an empty or like a shallow seeding. It actually knows where those records came from. So if you later make changes to those records in the sandbox, you can deploy those changes back to production, and Salto is going to know that these are the same records. So most of our customers, we encourage them to use this again as a data as metadata approach, right? Start the changes in your dev environment, push them to integration, UAT, and then production, right? And Salto is going to remember the relationship across all the different sandboxes in the pipeline. There's a question here. If we choose to deploy only CPQ with Salto, is there a possibility to track dependencies of CPQ features to other features, like an Epics class on account has some relationship to CPQ? So you can configure Salto to only know, okay, so there are two things here. You can configure Salto to basically what you want Salto to know about. So for those who are familiar with the package XML in Salesforce, this is very similar. And that's kind of what I'm showing here on the screen, where I've told Salto to basically fetch every single metadata type, but also fetch metadata types of the CPQ, and the advanced approval namespace. Then I've also said here that I don't want to fetch these metadata types and that I want to include certain objects. This is not something that you would usually change. It's like a one-time thing. But so here's how you configure Salto in terms of what Salto will know about your org. That's separate from what you choose to deploy, right? So you could tell Salto, okay, I want you to know about everything, but only use Salto for deploying CPQ data. So then, yes, you would be able to see if Apex is using, some custom field from the CPQ namespace or something like that. But you don't have to deploy that. You can deploy that through some other mechanism that you want. Now, of course, we recommend if you're going to have something in the Salto environment, it's better that you take advantage of Salto and just deploy it through Salto. Okay, we got a good number of questions. That was nice. But that is a demo. So the demo was just that, right? How to do a deployment. We saw how to do a revert. We saw more or less what a seeding would look like. So hopefully you found it useful and, useful. So if you have any questions, let us know. And the best thing you can do right now, if you really want to, try it out for yourself or think about pricing, is just go to the website, sign up for a 30-day trial. There's no credit card needed or anything like that. You can estimate the price there, and it's fully functional for 30 days. So everything that I've shown here, you will be able to try. If you also have an upcoming CPQ deployment and you just want to do it for free using our trial, we won't complain. You're more than welcome to do that, and then later decide if you want to actually buy it. But I know a lot of people that have done that. It's a good way to test the platform. So Sagi, I think we're done, right? We don't have any more questions, so we can close this.
We're good to go. Thank you, Pablo, for walking us through, and thanks everyone for taking the time to join. We loved having you here, and we will share the recording later. So if you have colleagues or anyone else who may have missed it and want to watch it, it will be available either early next week or tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.